Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the English Shooting live stream. A very happy new year and wishing you all the best to 2024 ahead. Thank you very much for joining. And for your regulars, you know what this is about. We talk through all the previous week's news and shooting topics. And for anybody that is new, it's your chance to get involved. There's a chat box, so please voice your opinions, ask any questions. You can agree, disagree. It's only by talking and working together that we can get to the root of some problems. So whether or not you agree or disagree, get involved. I don't bite unless you ask me to. And well, as always, my name's Callum. This is the English Shooting live stream, and let's get into it. There's been a number of big things this week, some for me personally, but some quite worrying news for the shooting community as a whole. The big topic for today, and something that we have been discussing at length, is the shooting in Liverpool. Now, there are a number of different shootings that happen, across the year within the UK, even though we have some of the toughest legislation on gun ownership and sort of firearms in general. They do happen. They happen with mostly illegal firearms, and they also happen obviously occasionally with lawful firearms, although those cases are very few and far between. Now, there's a lot behind this and a lot of worrisome statements that have been made in the article, which I think no doubt is either going to be used against the shooting community or certainly used to try and further restrict guns. You've got the Gun Control Network, which love any sort of event like this. Certainly when they say that it's happened with a lawful firearm. So let's get into the article. Liverpool shooting arrest, shots fired at Showcase Cinema and Shop. So first and foremost, it's lucky that somebody that has been going around with a real firearm opening fire, nobody has been hurt. I don't believe there's been any reports of any injuries. Certainly no one actually, no injuries, or certainly anything worse. A man has been arrested after shots were fired at a cinema, a newsagent, and a house in Liverpool. Also, as the title says, it's the guy's been arrested, so he's off the streets. But I don't believe they said that the gun has been recovered yet. The Showcase Cinema Crocs Teeth was put into lockdown on Wednesday night when a man threatened staff in the foyer before shooting outside, police said. One witness said he was terrified to see armed officers and was kept inside for over 45 minutes. No one was hurt, fortunately. I know why a lot of people seem to get terrified or shocked or uneasy when they see armed officers. But in a situation like this, where someone's just letting off shots, the one person that I would want to see there would be an armed officer. I wouldn't be terrified. And to be honest, you wouldn't be surprised if someone starts going sort of doolally with a gun. Like, you want to see the armed police there, and you want to see them as quickly as possible. So a 49-year-old man has been arrested. No further details that I've seen as of yet about the identity, or really even the intention, although they obviously give a little bit of that below. A 49-year-old man was arrested about 4:46 after a taser was used. He was detained on suspicion of possession of a Section 1 firearm with intent to endanger life and robbery. Now, I don't know if anything has actually been taken, or what the guy's potential was, was he just there literally going schizo, or was he making demands? Was he asking for things to be, handed over? But the main thing and main concern for me, and I think what will be the main concern for every firearms owner and everybody that enjoys shooting here in the UK, is that they have said that it is a Section 1 firearm. And the amount of times that we have played, frozen, rewatched, had a just in every possible different way to analyze the video that has been put out. And apologies if it's got the Jingle Bells music or the song that anybody else seems to use when they put these sorts of things out. But there is a video of the guy doing it. Actually, um, I will have to excuse. I don't know if I can actually hide that. Apologies for the bad word displayed on screen. Can I actually? Yeah, I can't. Oh no, I can just zoom in. There we go. Gone. Didn't appear. Um, there it is again. So here's the clip. This is what has been shown on BBC. So a guy lets off a shot in the shop, not sure of his feet there, and disappears. So that's the only thing. The few things are the pandemonium outside of the cinema, but that is literally the clip of all we've got. Obviously, somebody that is prepared to go and do that really shouldn't be in possession of a firearm and should definitely not be allowed on the streets. But looking very closely at the gun, there's a few things that, like, again, none of this is 100%. But myself, Connors, and Paul, we are all very very experienced, I think it's fair to say, with firearms, and certainly UK firearms. And we are, I would say, 99.9% sure that it is an AK variant. I'm going to try and go through the videos frame by frame, but I have a screenshot of the guys just so, because just the way it plays on here is a bit annoying, to be honest. But there's a number of different aspects to this that we believe it most likely is an AK variant, or as the Gun Control Network would say, and probably most of the media outlets, an assault rifle. So the reason for the AK is mainly some distinguishing features like the gas port at the front of it, and the general shape and form of the gun, comparing it to a number of comparing it to a number of Section 1 AKs that are available on the UK market, but also just through our experience, shooting abroad and shooting many different variants of the AK itself. What is incredibly interesting now, look, first of all, if the whole thing about it being a Section 1, if that is not true, then that needs to be corrected very, very fast, because people will run with that. And there's a few things straight away about whether, Section 1, obviously, it has to be, for a rifle like this, it would have to be a bolt action, it would have to be a straight pull, it would have to be manually actuated, so either a straight pull or it'd have to be a bolt action. There's some blurry footage that I'll try and go through as best as possible. It's hard to tell whether it's a straight pull or whether it's another action. But one of the things that we noticed today is the potential barrel length. Now, looking at it from about, I don't know if you guys can actually see, if you guys can see the mouse, which is not helpful. I can't see it on my screen here. But anyway, looking, how do I get a pointer on here? If I try and put it like bang center of the screen, you've basically in line with the crease guy's armpit, that is where the barrel is going to be starting, and obviously you can see it slightly protruding there, out from the jacket, or the arm of the jacket. I wouldn't be surprised if it was under 12 inches, which instantly would not make it a Section 1. It has to have a minimum barrel length of 12 inches. If it's under 12 inches, then it's going to be Section 5. It's not a Section 1. It's very hard to tell. The perspective, obviously, the quality of the image. So I can't definitively say how long that barrel is, whether it is or isn't definitively over 12 inches. But there are a number of features and identifying bits that seem to lead to it being a VZ58. Um, which I know a lot of people that have been watching this channel for a very, very long time is going to go, oh, here we go. VZ58 on English shooting. And yes, I have a lot of old videos open and a lot of very old documents. And yes, we are bringing up the offensive weapons bill. So there's a few things as you go from not the end of the receiver. You can see there's some sort of groove there in that initial in that sort of initial surface on the top, and then there's quite a clear change, and then it becomes very, very smooth and seems to be quite angular with that dark bit on the end, again, where sort of where the barrel would be, where the breech would be, which looks like some sort of charging handle, which when you compare it to a picture of VZ58, so the picture on the bottom of the screen is a picture of a Mars VZ58. A Mars is a manually actuated release system. So of course, within the UK, a full bore rifle, which this would be, 7.62 by 39. They can't be semi-auto to be under Section 1. They've never been able to be, well, post ban, you know, to own them in semi-auto. So somebody had the quite ingenious idea to basically interrupt the semi-auto mechanism, and what the Mars used to do is lock back the bolt. You'd have to pull the trigger again to release it, and then the trigger again to fire it. So as the law was written at the time, it didn't come under semi-auto, and it was lawful under Section 1. They were obviously banned within the offensive weapons bill, and a Mars VZ58 is now a Section 5 firearm. So we are 99.9% sure that it is an AK variant, and we are, I would say, 90% sure that it's a VZ58. Not yet 100, probably very, very less sure about what mechanisms it is. We'll look at the footage again and again in a sec just to see some of the aspects, and potentially some indications to what action it is. But if we go on the assumption that this is a VZ58, and there's nothing to say that it couldn't be a straight pull VZ58, it could still be, as long as the barrel is over 12 inches, it could be a lawful Section 1 straight pull VZ58. However, one of the biggest differences between these two photos is, of course, the length of the barrel. And a very key factor with the VZ58 is that I believe the front sight is brazed on. You can see in the image above of this guy that's gone into this shop, there is no front sight. We've gone through the video again and again and again. There are some artifacts that at points make it look like there is something that could be considered a front sight, but looking at the frame there, you cannot see anything poking above the top of the receiver. It really does not look like there is either enough space after the gas block to even have something brazed on there, or just there's nothing. There just doesn't seem to be anything there at all. So that's what sort of leads us to believe that it's not actually a section. Well, again, he could still technically cut down the barrel and it could still be over 12 inches. But this is not something that you are going to find in a certificate holder's gun safe, right? Why would a firearms owner, why would a lawful firearms owner go into a shop and start letting off rounds? I think that's probably the biggest thing to maybe rule that this guy isn't a law-abiding firearms owner, or wasn't a law-abiding firearms owner. But why would somebody have this gun without any optics, right? So I think that's quite an indication of that this has been obtained. Of course, it's been obtained criminally, but it is only being obtained, or only being held with the purpose of criminality, because like, it's sort of a useless gun. It really is only useful for what it's being used for in that picture, because you've got nothing to aim with. So it could be, you know, a VZ58 straight pull that's been cut down, or it's a Mars VZ58 that has been cut down. And if I get the video back up, I'm going to go for BBC, because I can actually manipulate that one just a little bit better. So this is from the article itself. So let's go there. It might give you a bit of a migraine the way I'm going to do this, but I really couldn't find a better way prior to the stream. Oh, that's right. I'll let it play, and then I can just. So if you look at the so where that groove was, again, it's really annoying me that I'm not able to. Can you see the mouse? Oh, you can see the mouse on this one. Great. So I should have started with the BBC from there. How about that? The BBC's actually been useful for something. So you can see this grooved section. Keep an eye on this smoother section here. Just again, don't know if it's a glitch in the video or is giving an indication, right? But if you keep watching that smooth bit, when he brings it round, it's smooth, and it looks to be actuating. Right, it looks like the bolt is going back, right, which would mean it's not a straight pull, and that's really all we have to go on at the moment. It just looks like the bolt is going back. Now that would only lead the, you know, yes, first of all, if it is a semi-auto, the bolt would go back and automatically go forward. Looking at the muzzle flash of this as well, there is no way that is a rimfire. There is no way that is that is a centerfire caliber all day long. So we can pretty reasonably deduce that it's a centerfire, and it looks to be like the bolt is actuating. So that seems to point that it is not a section 1, right? Regardless of the barrel length, regardless sort of where it has come from. If it is semi-auto or it is Mars, then it is a it is a section 5. It is not a section 1. And I'm not surprised, but incredibly disappointed that if it is the case, if it does turn out to be a Mars or a semi-auto, very disappointed that the effective ammunition has been given to the people that further want to restrict firearms in the UK, to say that this is in essence a a lawful gun, because there's a lot of indication that it may not be. Again, nowhere near 100% on that. That is purely speculation from what I can see in this video, what Connors was looking at in it as well. Unfortunately, the footage is just so bad that, again, is the bolt moving there, or is that the blurred of the rifle? If the bolt is still staying, and again, you get this sort of this increased dark spot there, which seems to show that the bolt is opening up, but it could just be very, very bad, very, very bad CCTV, and it is indeed a straight pull, and the bolt hasn't moved. The even more worrying thing, if this turns out to be a Mars, this gives, unfortunately, more foundation to the fact that the offensive weapons bill has just not worked at all, right? Has been a complete waste of everybody's time. I'd even go as far to say that if it turns out to be a section 1, it's like there was never an offence with a Mars rifle prior. They've spent millions of pounds and spent years going through to get rid of the Mars specifically. And yet, if it's not the Mars variant and it's another one, lawful or otherwise, someone's still been able to go into a shop with one and scare the ever-loving Jesus out of a shopkeeper and a load of people at cinema and across Liverpool. And this is the issue that I have with, or had with the Mars, that with the whole offensive weapons ban and the banning of lever release and Marses, it was never going to stop something like this. Because does it really matter if they are using a Mars rifle, whether they're using a full auto, whether they're using a 2.2 or a 308 or whatever? The fact is that there is somebody out there on the streets that is willing to go around to 3 different locations over one evening and brandish a weapon and discharge it. I don't know if necessarily at people. Again, fortunately, no one's been injured at it. It shows that the banning of something doesn't prevent stuff like this, not in the slightest. And the millions of pounds that have been spent on the offensive weapons bill, not to just not to forget that we're still having people running around with the zombie knives. There's still acid being used in attacks. So what has this actually solved? I thought it was a brilliant opportunity to dig back up and remind everybody exactly how much this cost. Like, and bearing in mind, it took years. I think it finally came into effect in 2020. And here we have the impact assessment from 2018. So we're talking at least 2 years, and the full process, it took them something crazy like a year. It took them something like a year to be able to finally collect everything in and settle the compensation. So the total estimated present. So I'm going to switch in a second to the some actual figures, but I don't have all of the actual figures, unfortunately. But the projected cost of the offensive weapons bill was 109 million. How many more police officers could we have on the street for 109 million pounds? How much more proactive policing could we have? How much more intelligence-led sort of prevention could we have using that 109 million? And specifically on the firearms, it's all over the place. So they predicted that out of that, 4 million was going to be lost through the loss of revenues to rifle ranges and registered firearms dealers. And then it was, is there anything more from? And they predicted that it was going to be 6 million from compensating individuals for surrendering their offensive weapons / firearms. Now, offensive weapons would include all the other lists of instruments that were banned and were offered compensation for. So that's not 100% all of the firearms, but I wouldn't be surprised if even in this calculation that they were going to be using the bulk of this for the firearms. And I can't remember. Oh yeah, and that 109 million was the low. The high was 138 million. Is what they were predicting this to. Again, how many more police officers could we have on our street? How much more proactive policing could we have to potentially prevent or find these people before it happens? So what was that? Oh, so is this the firearms? First, you've come surrendering offensive weapons / firearms. So 2 million. So there's some big numbers, and I can't remember in the background. Let's go on firearms. Yeah, I don't believe they give any figures further to that. Of course, we then did have this, so that was all speculative. That was all, this is what we think it's going to cost. And then we started getting an actual indication of what it would cost, right? So Offensive Weapons Act 2020, 2019, they were going to pay for a Mars knife. Oh, that needs to be a thing. VZ58 Mars rifle 1,950, and the lever releases anywhere from 2,240 right up to 5,105 pounds. And then going back to an older video, because I don't seem to actually have the document to hand. There's definitely a prediction. I need to find the So I need to find the predicted number. And this just gives you the indication of actually how sort of out of touch and really how uneducated they were in their estimations. Like, you can't go out there and make massive changes. You can't go out there and propose changes like this without fully understanding the the potential costs, the actual potential impact. This sort of vague speculation. It is definitely here somewhere. Oh, here we go. So firearms, these are the assumptions. So this is back to the impact assessment. So this is speculative. This is based on what they think, based on midpoints of data provided by the NRA, the rifle importer. The total number of manually actuated release systems, Mars rifles, in the UK is assumed to be 700, and their average value is assumed to be 3,000. Now, I would ask that if their assumed average value is 3,000, why did they end up offering 1,950? It sort of sounds like they were deliberately trying to make sure that people lost money. But 700, right? The actual figures that were then released was 133 Mars rifles. So there is another potential here that again, that sort of makes this all a complete waste of time, waste of money, and a wasteful exercise that's, you know, almost destroyed businesses. The people like Southern Gun Company, right? They've built their name on the likes of the lever release guns, right? That was one of their best sellers. So that business took a massive hit. Caledonian Classic Arms, who was selling the Mars rifles, would take a massive hit. The industry took a big hit from this. Accessories. There's potentially even people that gave up shooting because they had to survive to supply them, surrender their Mars or surrender their lever release. I will get to that in a second. But it is very scary that they estimated that there were 700 out there and they only had 133 surrenders. Now, what that seems to point to is that not all of the Mars rifles were surrendered. Now, they didn't know how many Mars rifles exactly was out there because of the way that our firearms licensing systems work in terms of recording the guns. They don't necessarily all record the make and model exactly the same, right? It wouldn't necessarily be incorrect to just put VZ58 Mars rifle, or technically it's still, or even put in Caledonian Classic Arms, a Caledonian Classic Arms AK. If there's no actual writing on the gun, if there's nothing actually on it saying Mars and VZ58, well, where has it come from? Well, Caledonian Classic Arms. And what is it? Well, it's an AK, effectively. So the inconsistencies in how these guns were logged on the National Firearms database, and the way they were written on tickets in the first place, meant it was very hard for them to judge. But 700 predicted and 133, that is a massive degree of error. And it did ask the question at the time, how many were still out there? How many were still out there in unknown, not unknown hands, but how many were out there in the hands of people that didn't understand that they were now Section 5, that they were now prohibited, that they could now no longer lawfully hold on to them. So, I mean, it's very unlikely that somebody with a firearm certificate, so regardless of what was written down on their certificate, they're still responsible for that gun. They were still responsible for that firearm. So even if they didn't get a knock on the door or an angry letter from the police going, "Oi, you need to get rid of that gun," it's not like they could just go and sell it to Shady Bob down the pub and then play dumb, like, oh, what rifle? It's disappeared. It's on their ticket. There would have had to have been a transfer. The same with a firearms dealer. So it's very unlikely that someone is just like woken up and gone, oh yeah, I've got this illegal firearm. I'm going to I'm just going to offlay it to someone. So there's still possibly people out there with them that are sort of lawfully and illegally holding on to them. They lawfully bought it, they were in lawful possession of it, and because of the change of the law and they missed the surrender, they are sort of no fault of their own still in possession of it. I'm sure that has happened, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Is that the source for this gun? Again, this is on the assumption that we're reasonably sure that it is a VZ58, and on the, I would say, less solid assumption that it is a Mars rifle. One other potential source is that it has unfortunately come out of the hands of the police through one way or another, and that sounds, you know, again, on the assumption that it is a Mars and it had been lawfully surrendered and handed over to the police, and it might sound absolutely insane to even ask the question that it has potentially come from the police. There's certainly nothing to indicate or give sort of any validity to that at the moment, but this has happened before. There have been cases of shooters pre-handgun ban surrendering their guns to the police, only for, you know, a period after that fact to have armed police at their door, arresting them and confiscating the rest of the firearms that they have. And one particular story is that guy surrendered, I believe it was a revolver. Again, I don't know if it was months or years after surrendering it. Got a knock on the door one day. Police come in, arrest him, take all of his guns, and say, one of your guns has just been found at a bank robbery, and you're the person in charge of it, or you're the person that last had it, so therefore that sort of puts you at the scene of the crime, or you have handed that over to somebody that's then gone and committed that crime. The day of the court case comes, and this shooter just very calmly passes over the surrender receipt to the police, and lo and behold, the case was dropped very, very quickly, and he was allowed to leave and got all of his stuff back. So there have been examples of that happening, where a surrendered gun has, for one reason or another, ended up from the police into criminals' hands. And I think I've told that story previously on the channel, and you know, it has to be asked, whose hands was that in the case of the revolver, whose hands was it safest in, right? The shooter that, you know, all the time it was in the shooter's hands, it never ended up being used in a bank robbery. And then when it wasn't in that shooter's hands, it ends up. And there's actually a story that has been released. I think this actually broke today. It's on the Telegraph. Unfortunately, I'm not subscribed to the Telegraph, but fortunately, I know people that are, and are able to download it and share it. Soldier stole MOD gun parts and gave them to Saving Private Ryan dealer. That is not a title I ever thought I would hear or see on the news. It is a bit out there, to be completely honest. Now, again, we're not talking about police here, and we're not talking about surrendered firearms, but we are talking about a person in a position of trust, taking the possession of the MOD, and then giving it not necessarily to a criminal, but you see what I mean. There are people out there. We all know, within any industry, within any organization, nobody is barred from potentially being a criminal, right? We've seen plenty of soldiers over the years be charged criminally. We've seen plenty of police officers. So it's certainly not out of the bounds of reality. But this story is yeah, pretty interesting. I'll come back to it, but there is some. I think certainly the question should be asked, if it turns out to be a Mars, how has it ended up? And if it's a Mars that had previously been surrendered, how did it then make its way into guy's hands that goes and robs a shop with it? So, back onto the costs of the offensive weapons bill. Lever release, total compensation paid 2.8 million, 262,000 for Mars, 781,000 for 781,000 for ancillary equipment, comes to 3.8 million. That is what they spent. 3.8 million spent on taking these guns and the ancillary equipment. Now that wouldn't have been the cost anywhere near the total cost, right? Because there would have been the time of the police to take these guns in, to catalog these guns, to secure these guns, to then destroy the guns, to move them on, to make sure that they were properly destroyed, as they very much should have been. I mean, they shouldn't have been. They were perfectly fine in the possession of the people with the certificates, but obviously it was no longer lawful for them to do that. So there would have been a cost to that. The administration, there was a cost to firearms licensing in their attempts to notify all certificate holders. There's some there's some forces out there that have beyond 20,000 20,000 certificate holders. What's the price of a second class stamp these days? Some quick maths. Oh, 75p. Second class stamp. They're going. No, it's 2023. 75p for a second class stamp. Over 20,000. So you're talking to send a letter to every. If you've got 20,000 certificate holders, regardless of the envelope, regardless of printing the paper and have somebody sat down, putting the paper in the envelope and putting the address on the envelope, and it probably actually takes far more in time alone than it did cost. But 75p times 20,000, you're talking 15,000. Or how many certificate holders are there? I think it's like 150,000, roughly in that. Obviously, it does go. So 100 and let's say it costs £1 from the envelope, the printing, the time to put it in the envelope, to zipping it up, putting the stamp on there, the cost of the stamp, and sending it out. You're probably looking closer to £1. So just sending letters out to everybody for 150,000 people, £1 to go, £150,000 just in trying to notify people. So, there's the legislative changes, there's the admin, the obviously the time and money and effort put into changing the law and doing all of these impact assessment and this, that, and the other. So you are talking 10 million at least just on the Mars, and yet it seems that somebody has gone and shot in various places with a VZ58. So we will have to see where that goes, but no doubt it will be used. Certainly if it is confirmed, if it turns out to be a straight pull VZ58, then it will be then if a straight pull VZ58, no doubt there will be additional calls to ban them. And it's sort of like, what's going to happen? They're going to end up banning VZ58, straight pull VZ58, but they're going to leave bolt action VZ. I don't know if that actually exists, but I'm sure someone will make one, or someone has made one. So that it's like they ban the Mars VZ58, they ban the straight pull VZ58, and then somebody will go off with a a bolt action VZ58, and then it would just be like, yeah, and then you've got people going into these shops with like sticks and stones. It's like banning this stuff doesn't work. I really do believe proactive policing, sort of proactive intelligence gathering is far more effective into to preventing things like this. Like, this guy had to get this gun from somewhere, right? There's going to be a trail there. There's going to be a transaction there. There's going to be communication between people there. I'm very doubtful that he's just and straight away got the gun and then chosen to do this. So he would have been possessing the gun. He would have had to have got ammunition, maybe from the same source, most likely from the same source, but he would have been storing that gun, somewhere. There's a lot of opportunities there with, the right intelligence, the right manpower to prevent it. And when this sort of stuff happens, that's always how I look at it. It doesn't matter what he's used, whether what he used was lawful to own and whether he lawfully owned it or not. It's or whether it was completely illegal and was obtained by the most illegal means possible. It's the fact that they went and did it, and people like this they are going to go and do it with a gun. And if you completely eradicate guns from this planet, which would you'd never be able to do, then it's going to be a knife. Then it's going to be it's going to be a machete. It's going to be a knife. It's going to be a baseball bat. It's going to be a golf club. It's the issue that there's people out there prepared to do this, not necessarily what they are doing it with. So yeah, hopefully, yeah, in the strangest possible way, the best thing for the best thing selfishly for the shooting community is that it does turn out to be a completely a legal firearm, a Mars VZ58, a semi-auto, full auto, although it doesn't necessarily look like a full auto. That's certainly not a Section 1. If it is a Section 5 classified gun, then there's less likelihood of sort of pushback at the from the gun control network, from the people that obviously want to restrict every single gun that is out there. But if it is a Section 1, if it does turn out to be what was illegally owned, or it is or was until that happened, a legally owned gun, and it's Section 1, that we know that the police, the Home Office, firearms licensing, they obviously didn't like the Mars, the lever release, and if it does turn out to be a lawfully owned VZ58, they're going to jump at the chance to grab them. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I will be following it incredibly closely to see which way they're going. This is the sort of thing that we need to follow. And say again, if it turns out not to be Section 1, then it's just okay, leave it to do its own thing. If it is, we will need to follow it very, very closely. Let's then have a look at chat. You can use the chat box as much or as little as you want. Let's go through. Alexander Dale, thanks for joining as always. Thanks for the mini mag tip last stream. 1522 is running like a dream. See, mini mag, it just fixes everything. If you ever have an issue with a gun, put mini mag through it. If it doesn't if it doesn't run with mini mag, then it's probably an issue with the gun. Jacob, if it's legally held or stolen from legal owner, it's likely likely prevented bloodshed because it's a manual action, not semi-auto or full auto. Proof it works. I don't necessarily know. I sort of get what you're saying to an extent, but let's remember that the most recent shooting with a legal firearm in in Kiam, that was done with a 2+1 pump action. That was a manually actuated gun, and I wouldn't say that there wasn't bloodshed in Kiam. Um, how has it prevented bloodshed if it's a straight pull or a Mars or a bolt action? Um, the guy obviously knew how to use it or figured out how to use it because he fired more than one shot at one location. Um, so he was obviously capable of reloading it and reusing it. From the video, looked like a pump action shotgun. Yeah, no, like again, we are 99.9% sure it's an AK. We're 99 point. Well, we're 90% sure it's a VZ58, and I don't know. I would say it's what are the three options? I would rule out. There's like a 1% chance that it is a full auto, and he's just not running it in with full auto selected. So what then like a 32% chance it's a semi-auto, probably probably a 33% chance that it is Mars, and probably keeping up with the maths here, probably a 20% chance that it's section 1 straight pull, and then what, like 13% chance that it's something else, like another version of the VZ58. Just to be clear, a section 1 firearm means any firearm that's not section 2 or section 5. He may still have not had the license for it. Yes, yeah, 100%. Like, there's no saying that was lawfully owned, even if it was a section 1. It Yeah, it's just, again, we don't know. We need to know the truth about it. We need it clarified again, because if they don't clarify it, if they don't come out and dispel it being a section 1 if it isn't, or give any we need to, like, as a community, as sort of stakeholders in firearms ownership, we need to know where it's come from, how it's got into that guy's hands. Maybe there's something that we need to be doing differently, or maybe there's something at the moment that we need to be more cognizant of. If it has been stolen by, if it's been stolen from a lawful firearms owner, how have they stolen it? What techniques have they used? How have they, managed to get it? So, we need to know. We need to know, and obviously, it's not. Either way, it's not a good start to the year, and it's in some way, regardless of what the facts are, it will be used against us. Rob, that's a BR99 shotgun. Again, our feeling is VZ58. That's we went over it so many times. I can't really do like on the desktop. I downloaded the video and I can scroll frame by frame, and I can very quickly cycle the exact spot. I can't imitate that on stream because I'm using a web browser. It's not as easy. So we spent a lot of time looking at it, and a lot of time comparing it to many different photos, many different variants. Oh yes, I have proper whiskey glasses now, and a new whiskey, Elijah Craig, for this evening, which I am very much enjoying. I was getting quite sad that my Mitch's bottle was slowly decreasing, and yeah, the Elijah Craig is I think a good alternative. Black Guinea Pig, that's a VZ58. Well, Black Guinea Pig, I think out of most people, I would give a lot to what you say on your opinion of what a gun is. For those that may be new to the channel, Black Guinea Pig is our resident militaria and historical firearms expert. I'm not saying necessarily the VZ58 is historical, but it's not exactly modern. So yeah, like, black guinea pig noses stuff. So that to me gives it a little bit more. Maybe it's not 50% now that it's what did I say? I said 90% VZ58. Maybe we're at like 95% now. Um, Frank O'Grady, it says he was arrested on suspicion of a Section 1, so probably not got an FAC. Well, yeah, that's a good observation of it. But it says possession of a Section 1 to endanger life. Let's look. Actually, I'll bring it back up. So it depends. I'm not exactly the best sort of analyzer of grammar, being heavily dyslexic, but he was detained on suspicion of possession of a Section 1 firearm with intent to endanger life and robbery. Now, I read that as section, it's Section 1 firearm. Say that's all as one. Possession of a Section 1 firearm with intent to endanger life. So I think if you take it as a whole, that means that it technically could be a certificate holder, but whether or not you've got a certificate or a license for it, if you have an intent to endanger life, that is most definitely an offence, whether you lawfully own the gun or not. And an interesting point. There's so many sort of points. I should have written it down, but I sort of tend to just do things freestyle anyway. The one thing about the it being cut down, and actually it's stupid that I forgot this because it's the main reason I did this side by side. This was one of the things that I might have said that or said it in a different way, but this was one of the things that to me gave quite a heavy indication that it is not a certificate holder. Because if we are under the assumption that it's a Mars VZ58, because it hasn't got that front sight, and because the front sight is brazed on, it's been cut off, right? And it is just incredibly unlikely. Again, I think I've said this. It's incredibly unlikely that a lawful firearms owner is going to have that gun with no optic or no sights or no ability to aim it. And because because the sight's brazed on and because it looks like it's been cut off, a firearms owner isn't going to cut the barrel off and stick it back in the safe, right? That just like makes no sense, because as a certificate holder, you can be inspected. If you go through renewal or whatever, or you take it into a gun shop, you imagine having a straight pull VZ58 and taking it into a gun shop with the front sight cut off and the barrel cut down right short. Yeah, mate, I need to move this on. Yeah, I fancy something a bit different. Can you trade it in? I think any gun shop worth their salt is going to run a mile from that, or be like, yeah, take a seat. Take a seat. I'm just going to make a call to an expert. 999. So yeah, I think I would say I'm like 90% sure that it is not a certificate holder. And yeah, probably 90% sure that this is not a lawful firearm, but again, it's not 100%. It'd be that's interesting. Blackstone. No, if he didn't have an FAC, he'd also be charged with possession of a firearm without a certificate. Yes, that would be another offence. But also, there's a string of offences that haven't been mentioned there that he's had, that he's committed in that night. I believe, I can't remember the exact wording of the law, but like basically brandishing a firearm in public, or being in possession of a firearm in public without good reason, is also an offence. Criminal damage. He's shot a shot, so there's criminal damage. I don't know where the other rounds have gone, but the round let off in the shop has definitely caused some damage. That would be criminal damage. the police just want to make sure that they're charging them with the most serious in the first instance. Once they've got, the most serious charges done, then they can take them back to the cells, and then they can add on every other little charge that they want to do. But in terms of possessing a sexual firearm with intent to endanger life, that is probably going to serve the largest jail sentence, right? So that's what he's done us with. But just because it hasn't, it doesn't have possession of a firearm without a certificate, I don't think necessarily gives indication that he's not a holder. No VZ58. No VZ58 straight pull, only banned lever release. Yeah, there are 100% VZ58 straight pulls. Black Guinea Pig, again, thank you. There are 100% straight pull VZ58s and also AKs. Like, I was aware, I had heard of straight pull VZ58s, but I haven't actually seen one, out there in the wild, as such. So, I couldn't necessarily confirm that they're, I've never seen one, out on the range. Oh, I had a lot of you are probably sat there going, I still don't really get what a Mars what a Mars is. Let me just show you. So again, if it is a Mars VZ58, it is the manually actuated release system. And fortunately, I have, before they were no longer Section 1, I have a very old clip. Here we go. So you can see there, just straight at the start. Let me slow this down. I haven't got the volume on. Playback speed. Right. Let's go back to the start. You can see the bolt is initially open. Before I shoulder it, I pull the trigger, which releases the bolt. So that is now ready to fire. And you'll see the next pull of the trigger. Okay, that was poor on my part, admittedly. I should have that was very, I should have checked that video beforehand. Right, so where are we here? We've got bolt back, pull the trigger, bolt goes forward, gun's ready to fire, pull the trigger, gun goes bang, bolt comes back, locks back, and then you can repeat the cycle. Release it, pull the trigger, goes bang, you can release it, pull the trigger, goes bang. So yeah, that was the premise of the Mars rifle. That is a Mars VZ58, and you can also see as well, that's a significant amount of barrel, quite an obvious front sight, quite a long way from the muzzle. You can see the gas block there as well, and again, I believe they are brazed on. I believe so. Again, I don't have a Mars or a VZ58 hand to 100% confirm that. And of course, when we go back to this photo, you can see, well, yeah, you can see it there below as well. But there's just nothing resembling what would ordinarily be on a Mars rifle. And that was it. There was one other thing. I was getting on to showing you the straight pull AKs, but I also remembered there was the reasoning of why these guns were so important and why some people may have given up shooting because of it. Right. So I ended up doing, whilst I was doing another channel, I ended up doing, I'm annoyed, like, ashamedly, I can't remember the guy's name, although he has got the name badge there. But anyway, we got in contact, or this guy got in contact with us and said, like, look, I'm going to be drastically affected in my shooting if they ban the Mars VZ58. I need it. Oh, 1 minute, I haven't shared that tab. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to be drastically affected by this. I might not be able to continue shooting. So I believe he had arthritis in his fingers, and we got him down to he was like the reason that clip was there. He was actually struggling to sort of load the mags, but he said like the mags, I can sit at home and I can spend a day loading the mags. Right, it doesn't sort of, and you can get the load assists, the Lula loaders, and all of that. You can make it a lot easier, um, but he really struggled with the bolts. Like there can be quite a lot of force required to push down the bolt as he is struggling there. Um, and he said it's not necessarily the fact that I can't do it. It's the ability to do as much shooting. I get much more fatigued in my hands. The pain gets a lot worse. I mean, he's using two thumbs there. He was really unable to quickly or or more, I think more importantly, comfortably um, you know, operate a bolt action rifle, and as well, like a straight pull, it can take quite a bit of force to sometimes pull a straight pull. So even a straight pull, he would have been hindered. Whereas with the Mars, and this was his own Mars that he bought down, like again, there's none of that struggle. Right, he was able to use that. He was effectively as many rounds that he could put in the magazine, he could go and shoot comfortably without getting fatigued and worn out. And it's people like him that this offensive weapons bill really affected, right? Because the VZ58s and the lever releases, they weren't used in crime, right? They'd never been used in crime. But yet we have people that relied on them to keep up with the sport and enjoy the sport, comfortably, at a level playing field with everybody else, and yet they don't have that anymore. Let's I'll just carry on. Quickie 1984, some clown act went rogue in flip-flops. Yeah, the fact that it happened in flip-flops and the fact that it looks like it was socks with flip-flops, that should be a criminal offense on its own. Um, Black Guinea Pig, there are better quality copies of the video online, still not totally clear that. Clear though, no. Again, that's why we can't be 100%. Just from what we can see and make out, this is this is the best sort of estimation to it. Giz Roberts, like most, it's probably a Section 5 prohibited, make them more illegal and restrict legal ownership to prevent these people from getting hold of prohibited weapons. We know what happens. Section 5, 12-inch barrel. No, no. If having a 12-inch barrel makes a gun Section 5. Oh, you're saying it's a it's a it's still a Section 5 with a 12-inch barrel. Yes. Of course, the whole analyzing the length of the barrel, if it would be, if only I could get my hands on a lawful VZ58, because actually you could see roughly where it goes up to the barrel and you could actually measure it. But yes, you technically still could have a Section 5, 24-inch barreled gun, depending on what the mechanism and the action was. Black Guinea Pig posted a possible pic of the rifle in general shooting on Discord, not 100%, but you can see how easy it would be to lose the sight due to the artifacts of the footage. Where? Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, you can get them much stubbier with a front sight. I still don't see it. I still don't see that type of front sight there. Yeah. Can we watch the whole stream at 2x? Well, no, because it's live. Unless you have a way to speed up time. No, you can't. £11,250. I'm guessing that's pound, Lee. That you said that it costs, maybe. I don't know, or what, 1,250,000 Titmans that have been sold, but I don't know. What if we give Callum helium first, then can we watch at 2 times live? Wouldn't it get higher pitch? All the AK fans are mad at you. Called a VZ58 an AK. Sue me. I am not an AK guy. We should get oh, what's his name? Brandon Herrera on here. He'll be able to do some forensic analysis. He might even think it's a 50. Yeah, all right then. Of course, I'm sure. I think I've YouTubed you enough, because of course, whenever you do a YouTube video, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 2 hours, or sometimes I can do these streams. You like to play around with the order that you do things. Of course, that whole incident was a big piece of news and is going to affect the wide shooting community. And yes, I am perfectly aware of a video that was released a couple of days ago. And I'll say I'm sorry to disappoint, but I wear many different caps, right? At the moment, quite literally, I've got my English shooting cap on. Most days I've got my magload cap on, but I've also got another very important cap that I wear, which is the UK PSA cap. And I've got to juggle with that, and I've got to prioritize. Now, there were some incredibly serious allegations levied against myself, but also the association as a whole. Not just myself, but the entirety of council, exec, and even other members, and again, the association as a whole. The professional way and the proper way to do this is to allow the UK PSA to have a chance to respond properly, right? I don't think it would be proper and professional for me to sit here live on stream and go through what are criminal allegations, right? If what has been said is true, then that they are criminal allegations. They are certainly incredibly serious allegations, and they need to be dealt with properly. So no, I'm sorry for the couple of extra people that have been hanging on the whole stream. I'm not going to go into it from my personal point of view, from the view of English shooting tonight. I will await for the UK PSA as a whole, for council as a whole, to respond, and then I'll take it from there. So yes, I'm sure now everybody that has tuned in specifically for that, before you go, hit that like button. It's all appreciated, and make sure you're subscribed, because there might be a point at which I respond personally and from English shooting, but you never know. So you don't want to miss it. Hit that subscribe button. For the genuine supporters and genuine fans of the channel, I don't think you're going to need me to respond personally or via English shooting right now. I think the true supporters and watchers of this channel will at least give me that little bit of trust to wait for the UK PSA as a whole to put out a response. But still, fantastic start for 2024. That is for sure. There is still a lot of other stuff, so I'm not just wrapping it up there. I haven't literally just been talking about that. There is other stuff that I want to get into. Let's of course now all the now all the comments are coming. Let's see what you are saying. But yeah, I understand there's a few of you that probably want to now. Like, if you hadn't got the hint, this year I've spent a lot of time getting away from drama, not involving myself, and biting my tongue a lot of the time. But yet it always seems to find and follow, doesn't it? But anyway, what else are you guys? See what else you guys are saying. If you mean Eliza Craig, it's pronounced Ale Ailsa Craig. Ailsa Craig. Again, I'm dyslexic. I can barely pronounce my own name. Never mind the names of bourbons when I'm drinking it. Great optimism there. Countries done for, more likely to move to Germany, get my annual hunting license before my SGC. GMP is so incompetent. Yeah, unfortunately, waiting times are still ridiculous. Weren't Mars guns created for disabled shooters? I'm not 100% sure. I've never heard that they were developed specifically for disabled shooters, but I know there were a lot of disabled shooters that made use of them. Spoke to an MP about the impact of Mars exec being banned on disabled people. The answer: they just don't care. They want as few people owning guns as possible because this is the nanny state. And I think that says it all. We are on an uphill battle, and we very much need to work together on it, rather than infighting amongst ourselves. Video guys 101, what gun cabinet would you recommend? Also, where should I store the keys? Yeah, quickie 1984. Is that a serious question? Yes. I'll give you some recommendations of where to store the keys, and if you could just let me know your address as well, that would be great. The thing is, I could give recommendation of keys, but I'd either have to give so many recommendations, not and include where I actually keep mine, or not include it and still give a lot to, or give very few to leave a lot. That you know what I'm saying, right? You need to put your keys somewhere when nobody's going to find them. Basically, wherever wherever that is, right? Obviously, if you're living on your own, technically, if you're living on your own, I would just say they need to be out of sight. They need to be in a drawer somewhere. If you're if you live with somebody, then I think you need to. I mean, the lawful term would be like, if you have you taken reasonable precaution? Have you taken reasonable precaution to ensure nobody within the household gets hold of your keys and has access to your guns? Now, burying them in a drawer somewhere that somebody else is very unlikely to go rummaging through to the extent that they're going to find them at the bottom. Yeah, I would probably say that's reasonable. Some people take to locking them in another safe. Maybe that's maybe we want to look for. Maybe you have your gun cabinet, and then either next to it, on top of it, you have another safe, which is where those keys are, and only you know the code. A simple solution is just to get a code safe, but the safe I would recommend is a key safe. Or even have a safe elsewhere that only you have access to, a little one in the wardrobe or something that you keep them there. Yeah, it's just really just taking reasonable precaution to make sure nobody else is going to get hold of them. In terms of what cabinet I would recommend, Bratton Sound, 100%. That is what is stuck behind me. That is also, I used to have a smaller one as well. The first gun safe that I ever bought was a lot thinner, and then I learned the lesson that you always buy a safe bigger than you think, a lot bigger than you think you're going to need, because your collection tends to grow a lot more rapidly than you ever thought it was. So I've still got this one, but obviously the armory at work, I don't need a lot of space, and well, again, I don't have any section 1, section 2, or other sections in there. It's just the air guns at the moment. But the armory at work, we needed more separate storage to the main sort of armory body, and I took that safe into work so that we could use it for that. So I've had two Bratton Sounds. I actually bought this one secondhand. That's the brilliant thing about Bratton Sound is, like, so many people use them. You can pick them up a lot cheaper. I mean, this was a much bigger. It doesn't have the separate inner storage. The taller, skinny one did have the lockbox, but even so, the taller, skinnier one with the internal lockbox was like double the price brand new than this was secondhand. So it's yeah, you can save a lot of money, and I've never had an issue with Bratton Sound. I've never had the lock fail. I've never had it bind. I've never had it had any issue whatsoever. So I can recommend them. You know, I bought the first Bratton Sound. God, yeah, it would have been over. Yeah, I was 20. Jesus, I would have been 20. When I bought the safe. Right, it's apologies for that. Now I'm looking to see if it actually drops out. It might not actually. So it's going to drop out in a second. I'm going to have to put a message because it's on a delay. Yeah, there we go. It's dropped out. It's back up now. That is probably the worst thing for it to freeze on, isn't it? Should come back. I'm talking to you in the past. Should come back any second. There we go. I think we're back. I think we're all good. That's never happened. Virgin Media. I'm on Virgin Media. I actually got a notification today saying, "Oh, yeah, we've had an issue and you've lost service in your area." And I'm thinking, you know, it would happen no other day of the week, but live stream. But then, oh yeah, we're back up. But there's flooding all around. I live down on the south coast by Portsmouth, and there's just there's a lot of flooding today everywhere. Over in Havant, where Magload is, and on the way home here, loads and loads of standing water. No, it is not the new laptop Mochaccino. It is Virgin Media, which, to be fair, has been very very good, very good. That since moving here, that I believe is the only. I know it looks like for the last, I don't know how many years that I haven't moved, but I did move a couple of years ago. But since moving here and going for the money no object option on the Virgin Media, it's been, yeah. Old viewers of the live stream will remember the days of the constant dropouts on stream and freezing and all of that. Yeah. Tagging the back shows the sight. I've done the same on the BBC. Pretty certain it's a carbine with a sight. Okay. I would, again, I trust you. I trust you. The issue with saying that it's a V, the issue with saying that the VZ58 is an AK is that you would be the first to call out journalists for misnaming things. Yeah, but I'm special. All right, leave me alone. I'm special in more than one ways. Video guys 101, like, you can't have the safe key rings on your safe keys on your key ring. I've been told to get a separate safe. There's certainly nothing in law that says you have to get a separate. You can't have them on your keychain. The only thing is that you'd have to be able to prove that only you are ever in possession of them, and there's not the opportunity, because, you know, if you come in and you've got your house keys and your car keys and you sort of put them down, you know, are you, every time you don't have them, are you going to hide them away? Or every time they're not in your pocket, or you don't have them physically in your hand, are you going to put them away and hide them away? If you don't have anybody else in the house, if you're living on your own, I can't necessarily see a problem with that, because they're either going to be in your pocket, in your hand, or in the house, which only you are. But if you lose your house keys, which does happen, it's an absolute pain. It will be a lot more of a pain if it's got the keys to your safe, right? Because obviously safes are made to not be able to get not be broken into. And I can tell you from experience, we got a cheap secondhand safe for ammo at work and at the unit, and I went in to get a key cut, and the guy looked at it and he was like, "Is this a safe key?" It was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Okay, normally a key like this," he was like, and it was just a normal key, apart from it was very, very long. Um, I should have just said, "Yeah, it's a normal key," because he's like, "Usually these are like £8." He said, "But I have to charge you £40 per." Now he could have just been absolutely ripping me off, but he was like, "Yeah, safes are just a different ball game. First of all, like I have to do more to it, and also if there are any issues, there's a lot more liability, because we cut you a key that is faulty. You go to put it in the lock and you do damage, or you bind it, or whatever, or it snaps off in there. You're going to be coming straight back to me to be able to get back into it. Getting into a house and replacing a locksmith can get into a house pretty quickly." Not a safe. So as a rule of thumb, I've always kept my safe keys separate. I tend to keep them, reasonably near to the safe, like, and that yeah, I'm not going to go too much into detail. But yeah, just somewhere that is still, it's not really inconvenient for you to get to every single time that you want to get into the safe, but also not too convenient that somebody else is going to be able to find them, because you never know who is going to be in your house, right? And the whole thing about putting them in safes is to prevent criminals from getting their hands in it. So if a criminal is in your house, you don't want them getting access to your safe. Daniel, a professional and appropriate response from Callum 2024 is looking good. See, some of us can grow up. I see you just wanted some clarity on it. So if I know if to buy another safe or not, if buying another safe isn't going to be too much of an issue, I would just go that route. You know, why is your license revoked, and why won't they reinstate it? Why is my license revoked? I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing here. But again, this is something I have covered so many times on the channel. I've covered it on Facebook. I was arrested under an allegation of assault, which I was released with no further action, and they asked me to voluntarily surrender my my firearms. I was asked to, they didn't straight away revoke, but they asked me to voluntarily surrender my firearms. I was meant to be up in Bisley that day, and it was like, look, you let me go here with no further action. There's not an issue here. Like, what's like, so why do you need to take the guns? Like, if you've got a concern, then surely you shouldn't be letting me go back on the street. And I was like, look, can you just check if firearms licensing can do this check today, whether I can speak to them today, whether we can have a conversation? And that was taken as a refusal, right? The guy genuinely went back to firearms licensing and saying he's asking if the review can take place today. Now, it was said in the appeal that I obviously knew what I was doing and I was trying to play games with them. I was like, I've just spent a night in the cells, not really in the frame of mind to be playing games with people right here. And this was only a couple of years, few years after getting into shooting. I I really didn't know the level of the law and certainly those sort of processes, and I knew nothing about revocations and voluntarily surrendering and all of that at the time. And they took it as a refusal firearms license, and they issued the revocation. Why won't they reinstate it? I genuinely don't know. I have an active application in at the moment that they will not progress. They won't. They haven't uh, denied the application. They haven't refused the application, and they haven't granted the application. There's been multiple talking points about my use of firearms as a servant of an RFD. I am a listed servant of an RFD. I have the same powers as an RFD in terms of buying, possessing, transferring, working on firearms, and they've disagreed with some of the use of it, right? They've investigated that. Again, nothing, no criminality, but firearms licensing still isn't sure. So they're not sure enough to convict me of anything, but they're not sure enough that they need to keep on thinking about it. The last contact I had with them was in February last year. So getting on to nearly a year now. Um, and there's still been no further information. As far as I'm concerned, they are checking that I haven't been a naughty boy, and they need a year, well, coming up to a year to be able to do that. But it's like, no, I'm sorry, no, you just refuse the application, right? You just refuse my application. My genuine belief is that they are purely just trying to hold me in a holding pattern. They don't have enough. They don't want, for whatever reason, they don't want to issue my certificates. I think it's a fair summation to say that having worked as a servant for an RFD for nearly 3 years now, having been listed as a servant on two separate RFDs and working full time in the firearms industry um, for well, even longer than that now. When did I give up gainful employment? Uh, God, how long have I been? It would have been, Jesus, it's been 5 years. 5 years I've been working in the firearms industry full time, nearly three of which I've been a servant. Um, I don't really know what more I can do to demonstrate that there's no issues with me being in possession of firearms. Like it's like I really don't know what more a person can do. But anyway, they for whatever reason do not want to issue my personal certificate. But I guess they don't feel that they have enough to be successful if they reject it and I appeal it. So they're sort of holding me in this holding pattern. And this is what I've said previously, and even what like Laura Sainsbury has said, the in-house counsel um, for the CPSA. She basically went out a year or two ago and said, "Don't basically think twice about voluntarily surrendering your firearms, because there is no legal. If you voluntarily surrender your firearms, there is no. And I'm not advocating for anybody to not cooperate with the police. I'm not advocating for anybody to not voluntarily surrender their firearms. It's there's certainly pros and cons of both. But what she was doing is saying like they're asking you to voluntarily to surrender them. You can say no. You're then not being cooperative, and that can be used against you. But you can say no, and I'm not advocating either way. Go and read. Laura's thing on the CPSA, and you can make your own mind up on it. But anyway, the downside, the big con of voluntarily surrendering your firearms is that there is no legal mechanism to force the police to actually review your case, right? If you have a revocation, you have a right of appeal, right? You have up to, I think it's like 25 days or 28 days to submit your intention to appeal, and then it gets passed to the courts, right? It's not firearms licensing from that point. You are dealing with the courts, And the courts, they are, well, they're not firearms licensing, right? They have a job to do, and they do it. Um, that's what happens if you are refused an application, or you have your certificates revoked, or you do a variation of something and they refuse to amend, right? There is a legal mechanism in there where you can launch an appeal. It goes to the courts and it's dealt with the courts. If you voluntarily surrender your um, certificate, or you have a current application in with firearms licensing, there is no legal mechanism to force them to make a decision. There's no legal um, requirement for them to process that review, because the whole thing with voluntarily surrendering firearms is it's voluntarily surrendering your certificates for the purpose of review, for them to review if you're a danger. We're not saying you are. We're not concerned enough to revoke the certificates. We just want a little bit of call off time to see what's going on, and let's just have a bit of a breather. We'll take everything away. It's not a full revocation, and we could just turn up one day and go, here's all your guns back, right? But with that, voluntarily surrendering your firearms for the purpose of review, and putting in an application, as many people have said, there's some people out there that have had their applications in for 2 years, right? Even longer than that. There's nothing, and this is something that is fundamentally broken with our firearms licensing system. These are these sort of black holes where people can end up in, and that does need to change, right? That needs to that needs to be solved, because what is happening, and again, what I believe is happening in my case, is that the police are aware of these black holes, or firearms licensing is aware of these black holes, and whether intentionally or otherwise, they are using them to delay things. Whether it's maybe it's even as benign as, oh, we really can't be asked to deal with that right now, we're going to do all these other applications. Because I can appreciate and sympathize that going through my application is probably going to take a bit longer than most, right? So, you're welcome, right? Mine's being put back to the queue so that they can process more. I would like to know the statistics of how many average applications they could process in the time and effort they've spent on mine. But anyway, there you go. For a fairly simple, short question, there's a fairly long and in-depth answer. Happy, I wish we could post GIFs here. I mean, I can show GIFs. What is Only Guns? Onlyguns.co.uk, was it? It's probably not even a GIF. It's probably not even live anymore. The site can't be reached. No. Captain Crack is now furiously trying to get to it to put something up, but there's a reason I didn't open that in live on stream, because God knows what could be on there. The best recommendation for key storage is in a normal safe, like the one you keep your birth certificate in. What if you carry that on you all the time? Frozen face. Oh yeah, we've got to frozen face. Get decent internet. I do. I've got a gig connection. I literally can't buy a better from Virgin. I can't buy a better internet connection from Virgin. Oh God, what are you saying? No, that is not. Discord will not be shown. There is no. I know I haven't shown and talked about Discord. If you want to see some of these GIFs, then you can head over to the UK Shooting Discord. Somebody shortly will put a link. I am sure. But yes, I think for the time being, we will not. I was told not to have my keys in a separate safe as it's a constant game of who has access to the safe with the keys in. You. Like, that's why I'd recommend getting a digital key safe that only you have stuff in that you need. Or if somebody else wants to use your safe for their valuables, uh, then you tell them that only you will have access to them. Can you look after all this cash, please? Yes, but you will never have access to it again. Happy Portsmouth-ish. What are you saying? What are you saying? Like from where I am, yeah. Again, I'm sure if people really wanted to, they could find out where I live. I'm certainly not going to dox myself and just put a lot of information out there. Got to make it a little bit. At least if somebody tracks me down and comes to my doorstep one evening, I know they have been determined and fairly intelligent, and they will not be underestimated. Whether if I put the address out, I don't know whether I should, yeah, whether I'm dealing with somebody with the intelligence of a pigeon, or or someone that's very very determined to find me. Nitsa, I had a failure to disclose a criminal conviction when I applied. Turned out to be a TV license conviction when I was 18 that I genuinely forgot about. But that, um, but that, but thankfully they took that explanation. I mean, yeah, again, you know, this is the issue. If you don't declare something, right, they start thinking about honesty and trustworthiness. Like, has he deliberately? You know, have they deliberately withheld withheld that information? Can we trust them? Those are the sort of doubts that go through them. But yeah, like a TV license conviction, like I'm sure they put a TV license conviction on a same level as speeding convictions. Depending on the severity of the speeding conviction, um, they don't tend to care about that sort of stuff. Dick pics. Only on the English Shooting OnlyFans, which you can join. Actually, there is the if you want to support the channel, there is the join membership thing somewhere on the screen that you can join and get all funny. I might not be able to do gifs, but if you're in the only ES fans, and there I see the there I see Olita. Oh dear. If you join the only ES fans, then you get to use emojis like these. That is Connors as a T-Rex holding some cardboard tubes, pretending that they are lightsabers. I mean, him dressed as a T-Rex didn't actually happen, but him trying to beat me to within an inch of my life with some cardboard tubes, pretending that they were lightsabers, did very much happen. And I think there might be video of it somewhere. Maybe you just want, you know, the face. The face is always here. Where is it? Where is it? I say it's always here, and it has left. But he's always here in emoji. So yeah, no gifts, but all the emojis. Or if you want Big Daddy Dan, Super Mod Supremo, then Discord has cooler emojis. The thing is, I could have more emojis, but YouTube limits the amount of custom emojis you can have relative to the amount of people in the join thing, whatever it is, membership. So if you want more emojis, more people have to join. That's it. First plug of Discord in ages. Yes, it was. Apologies. Callum is turning over a new leaf. Yes, it's not a Nissan Leaf because I will not go electric. Andy Carlos, I'm due for renewal this year, told by my FAO to apply 4 months before the cert expires. I would definitely stretch out to would definitely stretch that out to 6 months. And there we go. Quickie 1984. Thank you very much for joining. See, it's easy to do. And now you can make use of all those emojis and everybody else can't. It's annoying though that on Restream, so I can see 2 chats. Quickie sold me on the emoji. Some people are easily led, aren't they? I mean, there are meant to be like other perks, like you know, like exclusive content and stuff like that. But I think at the very least I should maybe do a live stream dedicated to the members. But it's not like we've got it's not like we've got a huge amount of members, and I don't, you know, I don't particularly, well, it would just be a nice little hangout. I'll bring some bourbon. Bring some. When Connors and I next have a cigar, I'll just go, hey, look, we're gonna do like a live stream to like 3 people. Let's do it. There we go. How many members do we actually have on it? Give me 2 secs. Memberships. Only ES fans. Total members. I don't know if that won't be including Mr. 1984. But you are the 6th. You are the 6th. Woo. One day I will be able to retire off the YouTube money. But yeah, there's if we get to 10, Connors and I will start doing private cigar bourbon live streams. There we go. I will probably still do a live stream just for you guys, because apart from the emojis, you don't seem to get much else. But it's still greatly appreciated because you're still supporting the channels. No, I mean, why would anybody be members for this? Well, obviously you don't watch very often, because sometimes things get really interesting and scary at the same time. But you don't have to. I've said no one's forcing to join, but you are watching, so thank you for that. Thank you for that extra bump, and hi, and you've commented as well. That's even better for the analytics. So everybody can support in their own different ways. You know, some can join, some can just watch and comment. It all helps. Alex, that's worth £3 a month in anybody's money. I hate that emoji of me. That is why that is the only emoji available of you on the ES. I promise as well. Okay, then. Wait, if we've got more members, does that mean I have more emojis available? Ooh. Customize default perks. Nope. Oh, I can give custom. Yeah, I definitely need to do that. If you've been I could actually make, so when as a member comments, I believe it like shows a little logo, and depending on the length that you have been a member, you can have different images. So I'm definitely going to have to make the top tier image the one of Dan, so that literally 1 month, screw it, at least 1 month, because I want to see that pop up all the time. Dan's going to wish he hadn't said anything now. As you gain more members, you can upload and share even more emojis. For more emojis, I need 4 more people, or maybe 3. I don't know. I don't know if YouTube has registered it. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, is that how you pay for parts? What do you mean parts? Exclusive sexy Callum pics. I'm sexy with a hoodie on. Happy, I just dropped Pepsi off at Magload. in the vain attempt that we will produce magazines. We're getting there. We're getting there. Ask Callum to give him one of the few I gave him to you. Yeah, maybe that would be. Well, maybe Dan, you should come down on a day, and then I can put it out there on the channel that anybody that wants to come down for a cigar with you and Heppy and all of that and Connors, we should have like a magload cigar night. Unfortunately, with the weather how it is not very good. Anyway, there was an article that we were talking about a little bit earlier, which is still the standalone interesting article. Is the Private Ryan thingamabob, Private Ryan gun dealer story that was saying about, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's a police or MOD, like guns can still end up in the wrong hands. Soldiers stole MOD gun parts and gave them to Save It Private Ryan dealer. Equipment used to make weapons worth £3,000 with Gary Howard, who provided firearms to entertainment industry. A British Army soldier stole military equipment from the Ministry of Defence before handing it to a firearms dealer who had previously made guns for filming Save It Private Ryan, a court has heard. I can sort of read this. Staff Sergeant Andrew Tongue, 43, took parts including 5 receivers described as key components to a firearm. Yeah, you don't say. Like, it's sort of as key as you get. Well, I know barrel. What is the most key component? Technically, it is the barrel. Once you've got the barrel, then yeah, a barrel and a bullet would. A barrel and just a barrel and just a bullet is definitely easier to make work than just anything else, right? Oh, Nitsa, thank you very much. Appreciate. Welcome to the club. We are soon. We are rapidly reaching the point of a new Daniel emoji and cigar rings with Callum Connors. I mean, actually, it starts to get to the point of, if you get 10 members, well, it's like £3 a month, the 30 quid. If we were to do like one private live stream a month, that would probably just about pay for the cigars. It's a win-win. You get more content, private a private viewing of Connors and I, where we may be coerced into various things, but or more coerced by the true supporters. Anyway, back where was I going? I was going off to Dreamland then. Described as key components firearm in the course of 4 years, whilst in cahoots with Gary Howard. Gary, such a beautiful name. Who provided guns to companies in the entertainment industry. Basingstoke Magistrates Court heard that Sergeant Tongue was stationed Tidworth, Wiltshire, when he quite deliberately removed them from military premises. I would like to know how you accidentally remove receivers from military premises. Oh no, it fell in my pocket. Having admitted 5 counts of theft by an employee. See, this is, yeah, interesting, right? Having admitted 5 counts of theft by an employee, Sergeant Tongue has now been handed a 9-month suspended prison sentence and must complete 200 hours of unpaid work for thefts while in a position of trust. Now, there's a couple questions there. First of all, now I know as a soldier, he would have Crown exemption, right? He would legally be able to be in possession of those guns. But where does Crown exemption stop? If he's breaking the law, stealing them, and doesn't have permission to be in possession and take them off base, I would like to think that the Crown exemption stops at that point. So why wasn't he prosecuted for possession, what is the basically possession of a firearm he doesn't have authority to possess, right? Um, it became he didn't have authority to take those home. So why weren't there any firearm offences? Right? He's literally supplying gun parts so somebody can build viable firearms. Like, where are the firearm charges? And I'm sorry, a 9 months. I'm sure he's no longer in the MOD. If he is, then that is just insanity. But anyway, um, having admitted, is now being handed a 9-month suspended prison sentence. So he hasn't actually gone to prison. He's not actually serving any custodial time, and must complete 2 hours of unpaid work for the thefts while in a position of trust. It's like, that's not really a deterrent. Okay, he's losing his job and all of that. That probably is quite a significant deterrent. But like, when you weigh out, I'm not saying like I'm personally tempted, but if you're talking, well, the guns were 3 grand. I don't know what was he being paid? 500 quid to get hold of them, a grand each to get hold of them. So what, he's talking £2,500, £5,000. That's not. I certainly wouldn't start committing. I would never commit criminal acts for any amount of money. Um, uh, but it's like, for 2,500, £5,000, like, that's like, no, that's just really that split second of a I'm sure if most people said, oh, for £1 million, for £1 million, if you drive at 80 mile an hour in this 30, um, I'm sure most people will be grabbing the keys to their car and doing it. But yeah, stealing firearm components and giving them to a guy over a 4-year period for potentially only a couple of grand. Yeah, to me, that's a very, very low reward versus incredibly high risk. And when they hand him a 9-month suspended sentence and 2 hours, 200 hours of unpaid work, that's like, well, suddenly the risk reward is sort of doing that. That should be jail time. That is theft. That is um that is, yeah, theft. It's firearm offences. It's, you know, I guess the saving grace, and probably why the sort of mitigating factor, um, is that it was handed over to somebody who I believe had Section 5. They say something, um, viable weapons, Brian would know, serving soldier, this whole thing, he would know only too well what those firearms could do. But it says, in mitigation, Richard Atkinson said some of the items had been found in metal skip. Again, it's like, okay, well, that again makes the whole thing about theft maybe less severe, but he still had so they mitigate. That's probably why there's like, oh, well, he only took things out of a skip. Yeah, but it's what he took out of the skip. Give somebody. Oh, that's right. He had given the parts to somebody who held a Home Office license to use them lawfully. Now, I'm sure that was a mitigating factor, right? He didn't give it to Shady Bob down the pub to make a gun, to sell on to some murderer or drug dealer. He was getting the parts for somebody who, a section, a Home Office license is Section 5, right? Because the Home Office doesn't get involved in any other firearms certificates or firearms licensing. So that would be Section 5. So it's probably, the guy had Section 5 anyway. No biggie. I'm sorry. And if you go up, they talk about discussing methods of how to steal the equipment, right? If you've got a Section 5 dealer, if you've got any firearms dealer that is willing to orchestrate and you discuss methods of how to steal stuff, how do you know? Like, at that point, that person is not trustworthy. If a firearms dealer comes to you, regardless that they've got Section 5 or an RFD or whatever, if they're coming to you being like, oh, can you steal some shit for me and I can make some illegal guns, there is nothing at that point saying that they've got any moral code that the guns aren't going to be sold off to criminality and drug dealers and murderers. So I'm sorry, I don't buy that. He was deliberately obtaining firearm components that he didn't have authority to be in possession of, knew the consequences of them being handed over, and was handing them over to somebody that, despite obviously seemingly being incredibly trustworthy, wasn't. How can you say he knew that those guns weren't going to be used to commit harm or worse to somebody else? You know? So yeah, it was. I know I was using it earlier talking about the whole Mars thing, but I think that is just an interesting story on its own. What other stuff that I'd put? I'll put aside. Oh yeah, carry a replica gun. Let me bring this up. It looks like there are campaigns for people doing people in America trying to bring in Ucara for BB guns. Well, not specifically Ucara for BB guns, but yeah, I stumbled upon this, and it said, "Why carry a replica gun on the streets of Rochester? Fear, crime, and legal loopholes involved." And I saw that article, and I clicked on it straight away, thinking, "Well, this has to be the UK, right? You know, this is very interesting." And then it was like, New York State team. It's like, hey, like, sorry, why? Like in America, where, yeah, let's face it, obtaining a gun is fairly easy, or it's certainly a lot easier than it is here. Yeah, a 46-year-old man fatally shot by Rochester police officer last week might still be alive if lawmakers had tightened restrictions on BB gun designs. Expert says, from personal protection to committing crimes. Personal protection. Well, I guess if you brandish it, somebody might, and they think it's a real gun, they might back down. But yeah, I mean, in actually using it, yeah, it's not really going to protect you. From personal protection to committed crimes, reasons abound for some people to carry realistic-looking fake guns. Yet those motivations would disappear if the fake the forked weapons looked starkly different than real firearms. So you can see where this is going. That is why New York lawmakers last year required toy guns and similar imitation weapons sold in the state be brightly colored or transparent, but state and federal laws still allow for the sales of BB guns made to replicate much deadlier firearms. It's like, oh, come on. Like, this is what we do in the UK. Like, and now America's doing it. It's like, like, Jesus. So okay, brightly colored. Have they ever heard of black spray paint? It's like, because that's all that is, right? You go up to that gun there. Let's say that was pink, right? And you got some black spray paint. It's still going to look like a real, like, what? You know, I thought the UK was probably in the running, or maybe the long reigning accumulative champion of really ridiculous laws that don't actually seem to prevent crime in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, America seems to be taking note, or certainly trying to compete. Well, New York, okay, but like we all know, we all know that New York is not a true representation of the entirety of the US when it comes to firearms legislation, just like California, which we will get to in a second. This loophole seems like, who wrote this? Sean O'Neill, like, loophole. Like, Jesus, it's not a loophole. It's not a loophole. Jesus. Seemingly contributed to the death of Todd Novak. Oh yeah, because if he couldn't have got hold of a real an imitation replica firearm, he wouldn't have then, if all the BB guns he could have got and he didn't have some spray paint were transparent or pink, he wouldn't have then tried to just get a real gun anyway. Like an unhoused man, he was homeless, who was holding a BB gun and running away from Rochester police when he was fatally shot by an officer on Christmas Eve morning. Here's maybe a bigger lesson. Here's a bigger lesson, right? Rather than again trying to ban stuff and restrict stuff, maybe not brandish something that looks like a gun to police officers. And are you telling me, like, bearing in mind, what is it? It's the Ruger. I think it's a Ruger. I'm just going to type in Ruger pink. There we go. Right. So they want things to be brightly coloured to stop this stuff from happening. So does that mean if somebody brandishes one of these to um to the police, they're not going to get shot. They're going to pull out this pink gun, and the police are going to go, oh, that's obviously a BB gun. 100% that's a BB gun because it's pink. It couldn't possibly do us any harm at all. So we'll let them go. It's like, just because a gun is brightly colored or transparent, right? It doesn't automatically mean that it's not a threat. It doesn't mean, like, maybe the police hesitate just a split second longer, but you pull a brightly colored thing out in the shape of a gun and point them at police who are armed. Like, I'm sorry, that is the bigger message. Don't point anything at police. Just don't, especially armed police. That's the bigger message. Like, the guy had a choice. Like, nobody forced him to brandish that gun, and now he's like okay, it's tragic. It's absolutely tragic that somebody has lost their lives. And in hindsight, because hindsight's always 2020, he wasn't an actual threat to them, but the police didn't know that. And to get into the mentality, again, this is the idealistic flaw, right? What these people are trying to do is say to the police, well, yeah, but if it's brightly colored, don't shoot them. Like, if they're brightly colored, like, give them a chance, right? And what's that going to do when somebody does rock up with one of these and the police go, oh yeah, it is, then you're going to have the blood of a police officer on your hands. Oh, well, he thought it was okay because it was pink and it was brightly colored, and oh no, it still shot the 9mm ouchie round. Like, it wasn't a BB. Just anyway, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, take it from us in England. The whole painting things brightly colored and all of that just does nothing other than to effectively lead me into the whole world of shooting. So maybe they should. Maybe they should make it really difficult to get BB guns, and then more Americans will go and get real guns, and you'll have more gun owners. Like, so I don't smoke, so I'll take a glass of nice bourbon instead. That can definitely be arranged, 100%. Happy we can have knives. I know you're replying to comments there, but I would just like to take this comment out of context. Happy just stating the obvious. Obvious stating happy. Captain Happy obvious. We can have knives. Just like, I can imagine that in some like really serious debate somewhere in America. You're just like, oh yes, we've seen crime decrease by this much, firearms increase ownership increased by this much. We've seen reductions in this type of ammunition and calibers, and this GDP and distribution. And happy, we can have knives. Sorry, this probably shouldn't be as funny as it actually was. Limey. That's because the UK doesn't have a gun culture. You can't even have knives. We can have knives. Thanks, Happy. Um, sorry, I don't know why it's that funny. It's just tickled me. You can't even have knives. Yes, we can. We actually we can. Actually, knives are one of the few things that YouTube will actually let you hold on stream. We can have knives. I've got knives. Mine's like literally my nice little knife collection here. We can have reasonably big knives as well. You know, nice little bowie knife. My granddad's still need to get that refurbished. As you can see, one side is reasonably shiny, the other not so much, and it is. I can't remember sharpening this. This is blunt as anything. Proceeds to cut my finger off on live on stream. Some people will just do anything for attention, won't they? Yeah, it's dull. It is dull. I mean, I could probably crush something with it. But yeah, my granddad's knife. And I don't think it was because of that, but that was actually my dad's knife. It's just something about dads and granddads with Bowie knives. So anyway, seriously, not a thoroughbred, but try Becksford's Whiskey Max. Absolutely, I'll keep an eye out for that. I like the hunt. The thing that got me into bourbon was watching bourbon hunting videos. And people like in America, some bourbons are just like ridiculously hard to get hold of. Like people will literally sit in a queue for 5 hours to get their hands on a bottle at retail price, right? And I was like, I've just got this thing about hard to get things like FACs. Anyway, but yeah, like I was like, I don't know. I just sort of want to. Seems like it's really hard to get one of these. I'll see how hard it is in the UK. And literally, like the stuff that people go and wait 5 hours for in the States, you can walk into a Tesco's here and buy off the shelf. Like Eagle Rare is one. I went into Tesco's. And I was like, that's literally the bottle that I saw that guy campaigning for 5 hours for. I was like, huh, how can I have that? It must be good if someone's willing to wait 5 hours for it. To be honest, so far I prefer the Mitchells, although the Eagle Rare it's not a cheap one as well. These are the Mitchells, but anyway. Frank O'Grady, Limey, there is a knife sat behind Callum, white handle on the shelf, pal. No, and I don't. I'm in home mode, not work mode, so I don't have it in on my pocket. Or do I? And someone obviously educating. I was going to talk about California. That's right. There's been some big news in California. Share this tab. New California law restricts carrying guns in public. I don't necessarily like talking about stories about America and Second Amendment and all of that. You know how that usually goes. But it is always interesting. We look at what happens in Canada, Australia, in the EU. So why not have a look at what's happening in America? We do need to keep tabs on everything. But a new California law. Let's make that big. And no happy that is staying there for the remainder of the stream. We can have knives. Please, somebody in Discord get the cut out Heppy's head and just have please do the speech. We can have knives. I still don't know what I'm finding that so funny, but anyway, gun owners in California can no longer carry firearms into amusement parks, museums, churches, zoos, public parks, or a whole skew of other places, even if they have a concealed carry permit. Now, as far as I understand, and I know it does vary from state to state, but in terms of concealed carry permits, an amusement park, museum, churches, zoo, bank, and bank. Okay, maybe not museums, maybe not zoos, but a private institution. In my mind, right? You know, freedom and freedom of speech and Second Amendment and all of that, right? if you own a building, right? If you are in control of a building and you're responsible for that building, you should be allowed to say what happens inside and out. On the whole thing of you shouldn't you shouldn't remove my right to bear arms. Well, people should have the right to say what can and can't come into their building. So I don't really have a problem, like in theory, with private institutions saying we don't want people carrying guns here. Fine, right? That's their choice. Your choice is to not is to not use them as a business. Talk with your feet. Um, but public parks, it's just like there's this whole thing about public highways and public lands in the US, and I've seen it firsthand in Utah, where people will literally pull up at the side of the road. It's safe, like it's because there's massive expanses of lands and massive natural backstops, right? They can still follow all the golden rules of shooting and be absolutely 100% safe, but they literally pull up on the side of the road and start firing into a hill. And it's like, how if the police come, we are getting arrested. And they're like, oh no, it's public land. It's for the public. I, as a member of the public, want to use this bit of public land for a shooting range for half an hour. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not annoying anybody because we're literally in the middle of nowhere. We're not doing anything that affects anybody else. It's safe. It's lawful. I own the guns. I'm responsible. I know how to use the guns. What's the issue? And I'm like, look, I don't necessarily see an issue. I just don't want to end up in prison. It's like, no, it's cool. This is how it is here. And yes, I am not for 1 second advocating that people start using public parks in cities and California as shooting ranges, where there might be high density of people, and you may not be able to ensure what is beyond your target and be safe. But to not be able to carry the gun in there, it's like, again, the sort of people that you really want to worry about having firearms and using them incorrectly and dangerously and with intent to cause harm, they're not going to care. It's like, oh, I'm about to hurt a load of people with this firearm, but I'm not allowed to take it into the park, so I can't. There we go. Crime solved. But again, we are fully aware, any Americans watching, we are fully aware California is not a good representation of firearms legislation as an average across the US. Yeah, but they like to close the door on them, don't they? Was there anything? Oh, this was a bit interesting. Let's go. Yeah, this one definitely caught my eye. Self-confessed drug dealer. Oh wait, I made it small, didn't I? And for those who have joined in the last few minutes, Happy has knives. We can have knives. Please, somebody needs to make that in an emoji, and then I might have to go back on the next emoji for the only ES fans being Daniel, and it might just have to be Happy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we can let the only ES fans guys decide on the private stream. Self-confessed drug dealer denies trip to gun club was connected with Salford shooting. And I thought, I saw that title and I was like, that's a bit interesting. And I thought there was a lot more sinister, like, oh my god, he's gone to a pay and play range, and he's gone off with the guns, or he's he's used the range in some way to get access to the guns to shoot someone. Like, this isn't good. Evidence, gave evidence after being charged with attempted murder. I'm going, oh, this isn't going to be good. And okay, right, attempted murder, this isn't a laughable thing. It's obviously somebody very, very bad doing very, very bad things. Self-confessed drug dealer denied he attended a gun club in the aftermath of a shooting to account for the potential presence of gun residue on his clothes. They said they had not been any residue discovered on his clothes and denied that he ever had possession of a firearm. And that's just like in some ways, it's like really, really smart, because not a lot of people out there are going to have gun residue on their clothes, right? And certainly if they're not a lawful firearms owner and haven't been shooting, that is a fairly good indicator, right? That they maybe have been involved with some firearms that they shouldn't be. So in a way, that's a pretty smart I idea to sort of cover it up, um, but also just ends up being like completely ridiculous. Now, I don't know the difference. I don't know the difference between the powder dispersion of different types of guns, but he didn't pick the gun in my mind to do it with. Um, I'm not talking about the attempted murder. Where is it? I mean, and this guy, he fully admitted to dealing cannabis and all that. Like, he's not exactly again someone we want on the street, so I don't particularly have any sympathy for him. So it was a few understands. Been come on, where is it? Blank gun. Fell fired. Please recover the gun box. The jury also heard that he and the Broadhurst brothers um, attended a gun club for clay pigeon shooting sessions on March 2020. In March 22, he said the idea came about a week earlier when it was suggested during a meal out. I'm assuming going to a clay pigeon shooting session, it would be an under and over, or maybe side by side. It could technically be a semi-auto or a pump action, but I really don't know how much compared to like a semi-automatic, 2.2 rifle, like how much over and under really is going to cover you in gunpowder, like because you're much further away from the muzzles, and I don't believe, or there certainly shouldn't be anything discharging near you. It should be all, whereas with a semi-auto, obviously you're getting lots of stuff coming out the side, near your face, and all of that. But anyway, I've never heard of this being done before, and it is. I mean, obviously, any lawful firearms owners have quite a good defense to having gunpowder on them, or any sort of firearm related residue on them, even if it is sticky. Then it was just a bit of interest, really. Makes me miss my pink bat alarms. At least you admit it was pink now. We got him. We got him. Please, someone screenshot that comment and hold it against him for the rest of his existence. Oh dear. Any recommendations on a first time gun buy? I see some older videos on the channel looking for a rifle that looks tactical. I mean, I focus a lot more on the practical rather than the tactical. But at 1,500 quid, I would get in contact with Cotswold Classic Arms. Obviously, it's because we were talking about Caledonian Classic Arms earlier. Cotswold Classic Arms. For 1,500 quid, you can get an Aero Precision build. It's an Aero Precision receiver set and a CMMG conversion kit in it. It will run the 1522 mags and also the mag load magazines when they're available. Very reliable guns, very well built. 1,500 quid. You could also potentially look at a Lantac. LASF 15 is also an all right option. Caliber Innovations as well. I haven't. Oh no, I can't. Yeah, I can't talk about them. But anyway, they have another gun, which I believe is under the £1,500 mark. I've not actually shot one of those. I'm not, so I can't say, but a lot of people seem to have them, and a lot of people seem to say good things about them. So yeah, Yeah, you've got a few options there, but I really would say Cotswold Classic Arms. Both Connors and I use battle arms that are built by him, and internally it's pretty much identical to the Aero, and the amount of work that he puts into them is exactly the same. So I believe he does have Aeros. I believe we actually have an Aero on order for stock. So drop Magload. Don't contact Cotswold Classic Arms. Get in touch with Magload. I believe we've got. I can't remember if it was a 12 or a 16-inch, but anyway, we have an Aero Precision on order with Otto that doesn't have a which is ours. No, well, I say it's ours. It's for stock. There's no one yet in line. So if you want, I genuinely didn't say go for the Aero because I knew we were going to get one in stock. Um, although I can completely understand and sympathize how it may look like I have engineered this situation now. It would be genuinely, please somebody back me up on the Aero. But yeah, you can drop us a message. Magload, we've got a registered firearms dealer, we've got accounts with all of the different gun builders and wholesalers and stuff like that. We can hook you up. If you want to share the love, come to us. If you want to go direct, you can go to Cotswold Classic Arms. Either or. I have no problem with Otto being supported. Caliber as well may have something kitted out. Yeah. Or Magload, hell, any RFD might have something. Was it? Oh yeah, sorry. I have assumed that you're looking for a 2.2 rimfire, 2.2 LR. If you're looking for 2.2 LR, all of those recommendations stand. If you're looking for full bore caliber, then well, the world's really your oyster. There's so many different ones you can go for. And just to remind everyone, we can have knives. I have got to try and remember that going forward. That's why someone needs to make it an emoji, and I might even have to drop. I might even have to drop one of the previous emojis to to that. Yes, I've taken it down now. Happy. Trigger on my Lantac is acting up. If I adjust one way, it won't fire. If I adjust the other way, I haven't tested it, but it's acting. Oh, the other way, it won't fire. It's gonna. I haven't tested it, but it is acting. Oh, come off it, Nitzer. If I adjust it one way, it won't fire. If I adjust it the other way, I haven't tested, but it is acting like it is going to be full auto. And in the middle, the trigger won't reset. Okay, I am not accusing you. I am not accusing you. But we all know. We all know, right? We all know. It's like the famous saying. What happens if you're on the range and your gun goes full auto? Reload. It's just like, again, that is a joke. That is satire. If you are at a range and your gun goes full auto and you are not Section 5 and have authority to be in possession of a full auto rifle, take it to an RFD very quickly. And it does happen, right? You shouldn't be scared. You definitely shouldn't reload and carry on doing it because then you would get in trouble. But it does happen. Guns do malfunction. Like we've seen it here in the UK where things have worn down and suddenly they go full auto. But yeah, if as long as it's like that's not your intention and you go and take it somewhere to be fixed or you stop shooting it to to mend it, fix it, downgrade it, you can you'll be fine. ES Store needs to make shirts. Drop mine. Drop your what? Your shirt? Oh, I could replicate your shirt. I would have to make some changes to the logos though, but there's one that would be staying 100%. Spartan refurbishment. For those who don't know, there's this famous shirt of Daniel's, and when he said, "Oh, I'm not going to do as much shooting now. I'm going to focus on international and all of that." I was like, "Look, can I have your old shooting shirt? I need to. It still hasn't been framed. That is on my to do list this year. Also, what's on my to do list is message Yarko Laukia. I don't know if I talked about this on stream because it's epic. Um, Yarko Laukia was the previous IPSC standard shotgun world champion, and he's been on Team Magload for a good few years now. Unfortunately, he was unable to retain um, his world championship title. I believe he came fourth overall. I mean, it's still like fourth overall, and he is the standard senior world champion. Still not accolades to be sniffed at. But fortunately, the new IPSC shotgun standard world champion is Lucas Roth, who Magload has been supporting for I think getting on for like 6 years now. He was a junior. He was actually meant to compete in at the when the Shotgun World Shoot was announced initially, he was meant to be competing as a junior. Unfortunately, because COVID and all that, it got delayed, and he wasn't able to compete as a junior. And it was like he was like a shoe in to be the junior standard Shotgun World Champion. Fortunately, in two ways, he was able to compete as a full standard, not just junior. Although he would have still been able to compete as a full standard, but he obviously stepped it up again, not being able to shoot junior, and thought, I'm really going to go for this, and ended up winning it. So the current shotgun IPSC shotgun standard world champion, practical shotgun PSG standard world champion, is Team Maglo, which is awesome. So we have a previous world standard world champion and a current standard world champion and a current standard senior world champion. And the other silver lining of Lucas not being able to compete in junior is that the current junior standard world champion is a Brit, which is absolutely insane. I say insane. It's like that's sort of doing him a little bit of disservice, but it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It really shows what we can still do as a nation. Like we have world champions in shooting. I know we've got people like George Digweed who's been doing it for a very long time and repeatedly, but he in practical shooting, going across the world and bringing back gold medals is fantastic. English shooting, I generally haven't shot it. Your Honor. Yes, officer. I generally haven't shot it, so I don't know if it will go full auto, but dry testing, it is acting like it would. So I think I need to do a video and send to Lantac to see what they say. I've heard Lantac customer service is brilliant, so you shouldn't have any issue at all. Anyway, on that note, to be fair, I've not actually heard anything bad about Lantac for a very long time, and they do make good guns. I've never denied that they made good guns. So maybe they've taken the feedback on board. I mean, no news is good news, right? I don't know. Daniel hasn't proactively gone off to piss off Paul, so we don't know. Usually we things come out of the woodworks when Daniel sort of prods in certain areas, but anyway, I'm sure they will do their best to help you. So before I shoot off, hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Liking and subscribing obviously makes a huge difference to the channel, helps us reach new people so that we can talk about shooting, share shooting, and get more people interested and taking part in this sport. But if you've hung on this late and long to the stream, then you probably know that already, but it's still appreciated all the same. Again, apologies, Black Guinea Pig. So what's happening with Dan's shirt? Sorry, I got sidelined. I want to get a shirt from Yarko and a shirt from Lucas, and I want to hang it up with, not to do them any disservice, to sort of put them on the same level as, or Daniel on the same level as them. Sorry, Daniel. But I want, those are the 3 shirts that I want framed. I've already got one that I just need to get framed. Yako and Lucas next. I'll send to you to show you what I mean. Actually, Heppy's still banned from Landtag. Probably so am I, to be honest. But Nitsa, if you want to, yeah, if you want to send an email to the Magload, send an email either to Callum, Info, or Connors, because Connors might be able to help. I will probably just give advice to make the gun even worse or even more potentially full auto. I'm not the gunsmith, Connors is. So actually, we're more than happy to have a look. It might even have been something that we've seen before, or Connors has seen before, and to be able to help you out. But anyway, that is it. I explained what we're doing with the shirts, and I'm not going to get sidetracked again. Hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Again, apologies for not covering everything that people maybe wanted to have covered this evening. There's a time and a place, and well, I've got nothing to hide. So as always, I hope to see you soon.